Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I've been talking and talking and I've been muted. Let's start up again. We are holding on chapter Leviticus chapter 8, verse number 1. God spoke to Moses saying, Kach out of his bottom, take Aaron's son, eat of his begodim in his clothes, Mishcha and the anointing oil, Parachatos and the bull of the sin offering, Veshnei Elim and the 2 rams, Salamatzit and the basket of unleavened bread. So Rashi says, this Parsha was said in the 7 days before the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan was totally erected. So it really should have been said earlier, but there's no chronological order in the Torah. Rashi says, let me take Aaron. What are you taking? Take him with words. You don't grab him and force him. Tell him with your words. Tell him what a great kohen he's going to be. What a great obligation he has, and a great zchus, etc. Parachatos, which sin offering, and rams, etc. These are the ones mentioned in the section dealing with the command of the investitures in Parashat Ve'ata Tetzaveh. That there the Torah tells you how to invest to establish Aaron and his sons. And now on the first day of investors, he came back and urged him on the manner at the time they would put into practice. So in Parashat Tetzaveh is the command. Over here, it's put into reality. Verse number 3. Then gather all the community to the tent of meeting. Rashi says, this is one of the incidents where a small area accommodated a large number of people. Just imagine all the Jews needed to come all to the Ohel Moed. This was, how do you fit at that time 1 million Jews in one place? This is one of the miracles of in time, that a small place held a lot of people. Verse number 4. This was the dedication of the Beis Hamikdash. Imagine all the Jews, men, women, and children, all wanted to come to the day of the dedication of the temple. This was a great celebration. And the community assembled at the entrance of the tent meeting. Moshe said to the congregation, this is what God commanded to do. So Moses said to Israel, Rashi says, the things you see me doing before you have all been commanded to me by the Holy One, blessed be He. They are to be done. So do not say that I am doing this for my own honor or my brother's honor, because as we know, that there were those who complained that it was all all his idea. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to forewarn them. He said, this is not my idea. This is all about God. Verse number 6. As Aaron brought Aaron close, Hezbonov and his children, he washed them in water. And he placed upon them the tunic. He put he surrounded them with the sash, that's the gaitel. He put upon him the robe. And he put upon him the ephod. Imagine the situation of getting him dressed first time. And then he binded him with the band of the ephod, and adorned him with it. Verse number 8. And he put the choshen upon him. And he put in the choshen, that's the urim v'satumim. So Rashi says, what's the urim? The light and the tumim. What are these words? So Rashi says, this is the inscription bearing the explicit name of God. Moshe Rabbeinu put a special note in right behind the choshen, the breastplate, and he put this urim v'tumim, and that was the name of God in there, written on it. And we knew that the Urim and Tumim would shine, these letters would shine and would answer many, many questions that Jewish people had. Verse number 9. And he put the hat upon him. And he placed the cap and towards his face the golden show place. He put that thing on upon his head. Nezer Kodesh, which is holy crown. Rashi says, what is he placed on the cap? Again, Rashi explained previously that the sky blue cords affixed the show plate he placed over the cap. The show plate was suspended from with the cap. So the cap, so it was like on him, as I explained previously, how they used to tie this breastplate around his head and on top through over his hat, his kova, his hat that he wore. Verse number. This is one of the reasons why we daven in a hat, actually, because the kohen also wore a hat above his head when he davened, when he did the service. Everything that we do in the synagogue, you see that we do it as a. So we wear a gadol. We surround ourselves with a sash. We wear a hat when we daven, etc. So these are all what was done in the Beis Hamikdash with the kohen. The kohen also wore a hat and he also wore a gadol. He wore a sash around him when he did the service. Verse number 10. Moshe took the anointing oil. And then he anointed the sanctuary. It was kol hashabay and everything that was in the sanctuary. And he sanctified them. And then he sprinkled upon the altar. Sheva pa'amim for 7 times. Sprinkled the altar. By his kol Caleb, all its vessels, Vazakir, and the waist washband and its base, Vaskane Lakacham, to sanctify them. So we continue. Rashi says, I don't know where they were commanded to do these things in the that they were commanded to do this. I don't know where they were told they need to do this. Okay. Verse number 12. And then he poured some oil, anointed oil on the head of Aaron, and he anointed him to sanctify him. The Rashi says at first Moshe poured the oil on Aaron's head, and afterwards he placed it between his eyelids. He drew it in a finger from the eyelids one to the other. So it dripped on his head, and then he made it drove to the eyelids. Yaakov, first thing, Yaakov, Moshe's bnei Aaron, v'yalbashim ketenis, and Moshe brought Aaron's sons forward, and he clothed them. He clothed them in their tunics. Yaakov is avned, and he girded them with a sash, with a gartel. And again, he bound up them with high hats. They wore hats, like God commanded Moses. The Rashi says an expression denoting binding. So said we wear black hats, and they used to wear, it was white hats. It was made out of linen, so it was white. And let's go to the Tanya of the day. Today is Wednesday. Oops, not Thursday. Today is Wednesday. So the Alter Rebbe continues chapter 39. This is the 5th part of chapter 39. Today is the 11th day of Nisan. It's the birthday, the 119th birthday of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So it's a very special day. And it's a very special day to learn Chassidut, which the Alter Rebbe and the Rebbe, who is the 7th leader, 7th generation of the Alter Rebbe, came to the world to spread godliness in the world. So let's go to the Alter. Let's continue the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe ended off yesterday's Tanya saying that if a person does something without any kavanah, any thought, no awakening love and fear within his heart, nothing. So basically, he did the mitzvah, and that's what you have to do. But the mitzvah stays in the world. So the mitzvah is only something. The mitzvah only fills the world. It doesn't have it's capable to fly, so to say, to go any above to the world of the world of formation and to the world of creation. It doesn't have that capability. Now, what's wrong with it? It doesn't have that capability is, in essence, that's your clothes in heaven. That's the clothes that your soul wears in heaven, and that's the soul that your clothes will wear in Mitzvah and in the world to come. So you need to be able to bring this light of God that you bring down to the world to be able to have also its elevation. Everything needs to have an light that comes down and a light that reverberates back up. That's the way. It's a continuous light that comes up and then goes down, comes up and goes down and goes up and goes down. And it needs to be continuous, that concept. Yoshev and Chayzer, two aspects of going forward and coming back. After that, it continues. This inability for one's divine service to ascend to the spheres applies not only to where one's motives for engaging in Torah mitzvahs are actually shaloi lishma, not for the right sake. When somebody, God forbid, he's basically doing Torah mitzvahs for other reasons, personal agenda, some ulterior motive, heaven forbid, in which case one is actually serving himself, not God. And a service surely cannot ascend to stand before God. But out of that, I'm not talking about such a person. I'm not talking, that's like that's a terrible person that serves God basically for selfish motives. He's having an agenda, personal agenda. That's his service of God. That's I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about as follows. It says in the verse, the verse says, their fear to me is like commandments of men done by rote. This is a very powerful word. I gotta see where it's written. That's it, Isaiah. So in Isaiah, the prophet says, the Jewish people are serving me not because they have any love of me or any fear of me. They're basically serving me because that's their nature. That they've been programmed. So basically, they're programmed. So it's all it's done by rote. There's nothing in it. So they've been taught to do this and they do it. Finished, like machines. So I've created a bunch of machines in the world. Pirish machs hegel, meaning that one who serves God out of a habit, acquired in his youth. He's somebody who's been trained and taught by his father and teacher to fear God, to serve him. So he's basically a machine. He has to thank his father and mother. He has to thank his teachers. Basically, he has no personal feeling in the whole situation. He's basically a machine. And therefore, he's not serving God for the sake of God. He's basically serving God because that's the way he's been trained. Because to say you serve God for the sake of God, it's not possible to serve God without a moving of a natural love and fear of God. There has to be some aspect of a feeling. Love of God has to have a feeling. When God says you should love him and fear him, that's an emotional thing. It's not an intellectual thing. When I say I love somebody, I have a feeling to that person. When I say I fear somebody, I have a fear of that person. I feel it. It's not something I don't feel it. And we know that in the regular world. When you love somebody, you have children, you have a spouse, you love them, you have a feeling towards them. When you're afraid of somebody, you're afraid of a policeman, you have a feeling, you have a fear. You do something, you're going fast, you see suddenly a police, you slow down. Why? Because it's a feeling, it's a reaction to it. It's not an intellectual concept only. It's a feeling. To be able to bring it out of the concealment of one's heart, to reveal it, that's a feeling. There's a movement. If you cannot have any feeling to God, whether it's a feeling of love or a feeling of fear, then something is lacking over here. Then either you don't comprehend what God is, or you're not meditating, you're not thinking about it. You're basically a machine. You're basically a robot. This is very important because a lot of people can fall into this category. And even people that have done tshuva and they made a movement, but then it becomes a habit. The whole the whole Judaism becomes a habit. Not they think about it, not they have a feeling towards it, but they're doing it, they're machines. For just as one does not do something for his fellow to carry out his friend's will unless he loves him or fears him. So that's a relationship. When you have a relationship, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your children, whether it's with a friend, that's a relationship. You feel for that person. You want to do something for that person. That's why the same thing with God. You cannot do something for God, really, in truth, with be'emes, in order to carry out His will. Believe you cannot do something. So I'm doing God's will without wanting to do God's will, without having a will, without having. And if there's a will, that means there is some aspect of ava or fear, whatever you want to choose. You're doing it because you're afraid of Him, or you're doing it because you love Him. Either way, there's an emotional reason that I'm doing this action, and that's when it's real. If there's no emotion, I'm basically not doing it because I love Him. I'm not doing it because I fear Him. I'm doing it because that's what I do. So then what's the relationship? There's no relationship over here. It has nothing to do about Him. It has to do with I'm just doing what I do. That's not a relationship with God, what a person has with God. And therefore, you're accomplishing something and you're doing something in the world. But this thing has no elevation. Believe is cloud, unless he remembers and arouses his love and fear of God to some degree in his mind, thought and land level of his heart. At least if he cannot arouse these emotions openly in his heart. So one who observes the mitzvah out of habit, however, lacking even this minimal arousal of love, cannot be described as serving God for His sake. That's not lishma. Even though his performance is impelled by no ulterior motive. I'm not doing it for to become a big guy or to power myself. I'm pushing doing it because that's the way I do things. This is the way I was taught. This is the way I do it every day. Why? I don't know. That's not Lashma. That's not for the sake of God. For the sake of God is that I have some aspect in my mind that I want to serve God, that I love God, or I fear God. Furthermore, the arousal of love alone, without the arousal of at least a lower level of fear of God, hidden in the Jewish heart, is not called service. You have to have both of these concepts. When it comes to the service of God, you need to love God, and it needs to be a little bit of fear of God. That's Kabbalah's El Machshamayim, acceptance of the yoke of heaven. As I'm going to continue to explain, this is so important. These teachings of Tanya are truly extremely important to our service of God, to realize what it means to really serve God in our lives, because God wanted the concept of service with all your heart. And we need to know how to serve God. And that is that God wanted to have love of God, and He wanted to also have fear, not only love alone. There needs to be an aspect of fear. Now, there's many levels of fear, as the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. Hopefully, as we understand God more, we understand that God wants us to respect Him, because that's a real relationship. Nobody wants to have a relationship based on fear of retribution. People want to have ultimate relationship that love. We have a loving of each other and we respect one another. And that has to be in every relationship. If there's only a loving relationship, it's going to be an overbearing relationship. There needs to be a loving relationship and respect in a relationship. We want a relationship with our spouses. We need to love them and we need to respect them. And that's the chesed and gevura that makes a balance in every relationship. You can't just say, I have love only, and that's enough for me. No, we need respect of one another. It might be more important. So love needs to be a lot of love, but there needs to be a little respect in every relationship, and that gives a person his space, because love can be overpowering. You can overtake somebody with love, and that's what's called. You can kill somebody with love, but you need to have a little respect. You need to give the person the space that they're important. Not to I love you and they become like the sick love, and I don't give you your space. That's respect. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe is explaining these two concepts that we need to have with God too. You can't say I love God. No, I need to have a little respect. I need to understand that my love of God has to have within it a tinge of yira. Which I don't think the Alter Rebbe is going to say it doesn't mean fear, physical fear, retributional fear, but actual respect, awness of God. that completes the Tanya of the day. Today, as I said, it was the 11th day of the month of Nisan. Very special day in the Hebrew calendar. My friends, the month of today's Chitas, Tilim of today starts in chapter 60, chapter 60, 61, 62, 63, 61, 64, 65. So 60 to 65, and you do the Tilim of the day. Have a wonderful, beautiful day, and a happy day, a healthy day, and I hope to see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock for the continuing of Chitas.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much. God bless you.